On the morning Alina Mercer entered Whitmore House, billionaire Dominic Whitmore had not stood without assistance in 14 months. His doctors said the spinal injury had healed. His fiancée said hope was cruel. The staff had learned never to mention walking. Then Alina looked at the untouched therapy bars beside his window and said, "Give me 10 days. I'll help you walk again." Dominic stared at the young black maid in a plain grey uniform, her deep brown face calm beneath neatly braided hair. Across the breakfast room, his fiancée, Genevieve Frost, laughed so loudly that 2 servants flinched. Before Alina's promise changes everything, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. "You clean rooms," Genevieve said. "You do not practice medicine." Alina placed Dominic's breakfast tray on the table. "I did not say I would heal him. I said I would help him walk." Dominic's fingers tightened around the armrests of his wheelchair. "What makes you think I can?" "Your shoes." Genevieve glanced down. Dominic wore polished black shoes despite never leaving the chair. Alina crouched several feet away, careful not to touch him. "The soles are worn unevenly. The right one has fresh pressure marks near the heel. Someone has been helping you stand." Dominic looked toward his private nurse. Nurse Redding lowered her eyes. Genevieve's smile sharpened. "He has spasms." "Nothing more. Spasms do not polish one floorboard beside the bed." Silence settled over the room. Dominic studied Alina more closely. She had been hired 3 days earlier through an agency Genevieve selected. Until then, she had spoken only when spoken to. "Who told you to inspect my room?" he asked. "No one. I cleaned it." Genevieve rose. "You are dismissed." Dominic did not look away from Alina. "No. She stays." The words changed the air. Genevieve crossed to him and rested one hand on his shoulder. "Darling, she is trying to impress you." "Then let her explain." Alina stood. "The therapy bars are dustless beneath the grips, but dusty elsewhere. Your leg brace has been adjusted recently. And every morning, your tea smells different from everyone else's." Nurse Redding went pale. Genevieve removed her hand. "You are accusing us of poisoning him?" "I am asking why his tea contains something bitter enough to mask with orange peel." Dominic looked at the cup. He had complained for months that therapy made him dizzy, weak, and unable to focus. Genevieve always blamed pain medication. Alina lifted the saucer. A white residue clung underneath. Genevieve slapped it from her hand. Porcelain shattered across the floor. "You clumsy little liar." Alina did not move. Dominic's voice dropped. "Genevieve. She wants money. They always do." Alina looked at him. "Give me 10 days with no tea prepared outside your site, no private injections, and no locked therapy room. If you make no progress, I will leave without $1. Genevieve laughed again, but fear hid beneath it. 10 days. He cannot even feel his left foot. Dominic's eyes narrowed. "I never told you that." Genevieve froze. Neither had his doctors. The numbness came and went, and Dominic had mentioned it only in private notes stored inside his desk. Alina noticed his expression. "Someone has been reading your rehabilitation journal." Genevieve recovered. "I am his fiancée. I know everything about him." "Then you know he stood for 11 seconds last Thursday." Nurse Redding dropped a spoon. Dominic turned toward her. "How does she know that?" Alina pointed to the brass clock beside the therapy bars. "I found an indentation where the nurse braces her foot. 11 marks were scratched into the clock space, 1 for each second." Dominic pushed his chair backward. "You told me I collapsed immediately." Nurse Redding began to cry. "I was ordered to." "By whom?" Genevieve stepped between them. "This is absurd. Security will remove the maid." She reached for the call button. Alina picked up one shard of the broken saucer. Written beneath the glaze in tiny blue ink were 4 words. "Do not drink after therapy." Dominic recognized the handwriting. "My mother wrote that." His mother had died 6 months before his accident. Genevieve reached for the shard, but Dominic caught her wrist. For the first time, his fiancée looked genuinely frightened. "Where did this cup come from?" he demanded. Genevieve pulled free. It belonged to your mother. So what? So why was her warning hidden under my drink? A crash sounded upstairs. Then a woman screamed. Alina ran toward the staircase. Dominic followed in his motorized chair, with Genevieve behind. They reached the private therapy room and found the door locked from inside. Smoke curled beneath it. Nurse Redding struck the wood. My sister is in there. Genevieve stopped at the end of the hall. Alina looked at her. You knew someone was inside. Dominic pressed the emergency release, but the system rejected his code. Genevieve held up a silver keycard. 10 days is too long, she said softly. Let us see whether your miracle maid survives 10 minutes. She swiped the card. The door opened. Inside, the therapy bars were burning, and a black woman in hospital scrubs was chained between them. She lifted her face toward Alina. Don't help him stand, she gasped. The moment he walks, she loses everything. Nobody moved closer. Then the floor beneath Dominic's wheelchair began moving toward the flames. The moving floor carried Dominic's wheelchair toward the burning therapy bars. Alina grabbed the handles and pulled backward, but the mechanism dragged both of them forward. Emergency brake, she shouted. Dominic struck the control panel. Nothing happened. The chained woman coughed through the smoke. Under the left armrest. Alina dropped to one knee, found a recessed lever beneath the chair, and yanked it. The wheels locked inches from the flames. Genevieve's smile disappeared. You were not supposed to know that. Alina looked at her. Neither was she. Nurse Redding rushed toward her sister, but burning plaster collapsed between them. Dominic pointed toward the wall. Fire suppression switch. Genevieve lifted the silver keycard. Only this opens it. Alina scanned the room. Red pipes ran along the ceiling, but the sprinkler heads had been sealed with wax. Someone had prepared the fire to spread. She seized the broken footrest from Dominic's chair and struck the nearest pipe. Water exploded across the room. Flames hissed and shrank. Genevieve ran. Dominic caught her dress, but she tore free and slammed the door behind her. The lock clicked. Alina helped Nurse Redding reach the chained woman. What is your name? Dr. Imani Redding. You are a doctor. Neurological rehabilitation. Dominic stared at Nurse Redding. You told me your sister worked overseas. She was supposed to, the nurse whispered. Genevieve found out Imani reviewed your scans. Alina searched the chains. No key. Imani looked toward Dominic. Your chair has an override pin beneath the battery cover. Alina opened the panel and removed a narrow steel pin. It fit the chain lock perfectly. The restraints released. Imani collapsed into her sister's arms. Dominic turned toward the door. Why does Genevieve lose everything if I walk? Imani struggled to breathe. Because your father's trust has a capacity clause. Dominic's face hardened. What clause? If you remain medically incapable of independent movement for 18 months, control of Whitmore Industries transfers to your legal spouse. I am not married. Genevieve moved the wedding date in the private registry. According to the trust, the ceremony happened 3 weeks ago. Silence filled the room. Alina looked at Dominic's left hand. You do not wear a ring. She used an electronic proxy signature, Imani said. Your medical records declared you mentally impaired during the signing. Dominic's voice became calm. Who certified that? Nurse Redding began crying. I did. He stared at her. You declared me mentally incompetent. Genevieve threatened Imani. She said she would make her disappear. Imani touched her sister's shoulder. She did anyway. A pounding came from the wall. Then smoke poured through the ventilation grill. Alina smelled something sweet and chemical. Not smoke, she said. Sedative gas. Imani looked terrified. She used it after therapy. That is why you lost strength. Dominic covered his mouth. How long before it affects us? 2 minutes. Alina searched the therapy cabinet and found oxygen tubing, surgical tape, and 3 empty mask cases. Only 1 mask remained. Genevieve's voice came through the speaker. Dominic, send the maid and both sisters into the observation chamber. You may keep the mask. He looked toward the glass room beside the therapy bars. Its door had opened. Alina understood. She wants witnesses separated. Genevieve continued. Choose quickly. The gas is stronger near the floor. Dominic removed the oxygen mask and held it toward Alina. She shook her head. Your breathing controls the chair's manual lift system. You need it. What about you? I will stay above the gas. She climbed onto the therapy platform and pulled Imani beside her. Nurse Redding stood on the chair's rear frame. Dominic fitted the mask over his face. The gas thickened below them. Genevieve sounded amused. 8 days, 23 hours, and 50 minutes left, miracle made. Alina followed the ventilation pipe. It entered through a grill behind the wall mirror. She struck the glass with the footrest. The mirror shattered, revealing a narrow control tunnel. Inside stood a frightened teenage boy holding a gas valve. He dropped it. Please don't hurt me. Dominic recognized him. Evan. You are the gardener's son. The boy shook. Miss Frost said she would send my father back to prison if I didn't help. Alina climbed into the tunnel. Turn off the gas. I tried. The valve is locked remotely. Where does the tunnel lead? To the old hydrotherapy room. Imani raised her head. That room contains Dominic's original rehabilitation records. Genevieve's voice sharpened. Evan, close the panel. He did not move. Alina held out her hand. You can keep obeying the person threatening your family, or help us stop her. Evan took her hand. Together they crawled through the tunnel while Dominic, Imani, and Nurse Redding followed. The gas stayed below them. At the end, Evan pushed open a maintenance door. They entered a dark room containing an empty therapy pool and rows of locked filing cabinets. Dominic's original wheelchair stood in the center. Alina approached it. The seat had been cut open. Inside were medication bottles, forged consent forms, and a small recorder. Dominic pressed play. His own voice filled the room. I can stand. Genevieve must never know. Then another voice answered. Alina froze. It belonged to her father, Dr. Marcus Mercer, who had vanished 10 years earlier. Your injury was never permanent, he said. But if you walk before the 10th day, Genevieve will activate the implant beside your spine. Dominic looked at Alina. Your father treated me. She barely heard him. The recording continued. Find my daughter. Alina knows the exercise sequence. But do not tell her I am alive until she reaches day 10. A light switched on above the pool. At the bottom stood Marcus Mercer, alive, behind a glass wall. Genevieve appeared beside him and placed one hand on a red switch. Excellent, she said. Now let us begin day 1 properly. She pressed the switch. Dominic screamed as something beneath the scar on his spine began pulsing. Then, despite the pain, his right foot suddenly moved. Dominic's right foot jerked against the wheelchair plate. The pulse beneath his scar locked his fingers around the armrests. Alina dropped beside him. Do not fight the movement. It feels like fire. Because the implant is stimulating damaged nerves and healthy ones at the same time. Behind the glass wall, Genevieve held the red switch. Marcus Mercer stood beside her, wrists secured to a rail. You always were quick, Genevieve said. Your father claimed you would recognize the pattern. You let me believe you were dead. Marcus's face broke. I had no choice. You had 10 years. I had 10 years inside rooms like this. Genevieve pressed the switch again. Dominic's left leg spasmed. Imani rushed to the wheelchair. If she increases the current, it could damage his spinal cord permanently. Genevieve smiled. Then perhaps the miracle Maid should begin. A screen above the pool displayed. Day 1 test. Stand for 10 seconds. Failure penalty. Subject Mercer. Alina looked at her father. A metal band tightened around Marcus's chest. Dominic tried to push himself upright. His arms shook. Alina stopped him. You are not standing while she controls the implant. If I do not, she hurts your father. She will hurt him whether you stand or not. Marcus shouted through the glass. She is right. The test is not therapy. It is calibration. She is measuring which current forces his muscles to respond. Marcus nodded. Once she maps the implant, she can make him walk, collapse, or stop breathing whenever she wants. Dominic looked toward Genevieve. You planned to control me after the wedding. I planned to control everything carrying your name. Thin black lines crossed the tiles, connecting the wheelchair to the glass chamber. This room is one circuit. Evan pointed toward the pool ladder. The old drain tunnel runs beneath the control wall. Do not move, boy. Evan flinched. Alina looked at him. She only has power while everyone believes she does. Then she climbed into the pool. A siren sounded. Genevieve pressed the switch, and Dominic cried out again. Alina kept moving. She found a drain cover sealed by 4 bolts. Evan joined her with a wrench. Imani monitored Dominic's pulse. Current rising, Imani warned. Heart rate 140. Marcus slammed his shoulder against the glass. Genevieve, stop. She ignored him. Dominic forced his eyes open. Alina. She looked up. Tell me what to do. She remembered a childhood game her father taught her. Heal, breath, count, release. She had believed it was dancing. They were neurological commands. Press your heel down, she said. Breathe in for 4. Hold for 2. Release before the pulse peaks. Dominic followed. His right leg stopped shaking. Genevieve's expression sharpened. She increased the current. Again, Alina ordered. Heel. Breath. Count. Release. His left foot shifted half an inch. Imani stared at the monitor. He is interrupting the implant's rhythm. Marcus smiled for the first time. That is the Mercer sequence. Alina and Evan loosened the first bolt. Genevieve activated another command. The wheelchair rose suddenly, forcing Dominic toward a standing position. His knees buckled. Nurse Redding caught one side while Imani held the other. Sit him down. The chair is locked, Imani said. Dominic was suspended between standing and falling. Alina rushed to him. Look at me. Sweat ran down his face. I cannot feel my legs. You do not need to feel everything. Find one point of pressure. Where? The floor under your right heel. He closed his eyes. Genevieve laughed. This is not one of your kitchen observations. Alina ignored her. Dominic, tell me when you find it. Seconds passed. Then he whispered, there. Shift your weight toward it. His right knee straightened. Imani's monitor changed. He is bearing weight. Alina supported his waist without lifting him. Now find the left heel. I cannot. Then borrow the memory of it. Dominic opened his eyes. What? Remember the last place you stood before the accident. His expression darkened. The east balcony. What did you feel beneath your feet? Rain. Cold stone. Stand on that stone. His left heel lowered. For one impossible second, Dominic held himself upright. Then another. 3. 4. Genevieve stopped laughing. At 5 seconds, Marcus shouted, drop before 10. Alina pulled Dominic backward into the chair at 9. The screen flashed. Testing complete. Genevieve struck the glass. You failed. No, Marcus said. He denied you the final calibration point. The implant emitted a warning tone. Control map corrupted. Genevieve's hand flew across the panel. Nothing responded. Alina looked at her father. How do we remove it? You cannot yet. The implant is attached near the spinal canal. But you can disable the external receiver. Where? Marcus looked at Dominic's scar. Not inside him. Everyone stared. Genevieve backed away from the control panel. Marcus continued. The receiver is inside the person wearing the matching transmitter. Alina understood. The silver keycard. Genevieve held it against her chest. No. Evan climbed from the pool and moved toward a wall cabinet. My father installed the security readers. Every keycard has an emergency magnetic release. He opened the cabinet and pulled out a handheld scanner. Genevieve pressed a button on the card. The therapy room doors sealed. The floor tilted toward the empty pool. Dominic's chair began rolling again. Alina grabbed it, but this time the wheels would not lock. Imani and Nurse Redding pushed with her. Evan aimed the scanner at the glass. The keycard sparked in Genevieve's hand. She screamed and dropped it. Dominic's chair stopped at the pool edge. The implant went silent. Marcus pulled against the rail. Now open the chamber. Evan scanned the lock, but the panel displayed biological authorization required. Genevieve recovered and kicked the keycard into the pool. You still need my blood. Alina looked at the broken glass from the earlier mirror, then at the cut on Genevieve's palm where the card had burned her. A single drop of blood had landed on the control rail. Alina wiped it with a strip of gauze and pressed it against the scanner. The chamber unlocked. Marcus stumbled out. Alina reached him, but instead of embracing her, he grabbed her shoulders. You must leave before day 2 begins. You are coming with us. I cannot. He opened his shirt. A second implant glowed beneath his ribs. Genevieve smiled from the floor. His device is connected to Dominic's. If Marcus leaves this room, Dominic's heart stops. Dominic's pulse monitor began falling. Imani shouted, she is telling the truth. Marcus pushed Alina toward the door. Take Dominic upstairs. I will hold the signal here. I just found you. And I just found the chance to keep you alive. The screen changed. Day 2 begins in 0:59. A new instruction appeared beneath it. To save Dominic, Alina Mercer must choose which implant to remove first. Then 2 surgical compartments opened. One contained tools beside Dominic's spinal scans. The other contained tools beside Marcus's heart scans. Only one compartment had power. Genevieve began laughing again. 10 days was never a promise, she said. It was the number of people your father tested before Dominic. Behind her, 10 patient files appeared on the wall. The final file carried Alina's name. The 2 surgical compartments glowed on opposite sides of the hydrotherapy room. One displayed Dominic's spinal scans. The other displayed Marcus's heart. Between them, the countdown dropped from 59 seconds. Alina looked at her father, then at Dominic. Which implant is controlling the other? Marcus shook his head. Neither. Genevieve linked both devices to a third transmitter. Alina turned toward her. Where is it? You have 45 seconds to choose. Dominic gripped the wheelchair. His pulse continued falling, but his voice remained steady. Do not operate on either of us. That is what she wants. Imani studied the monitors. He is right. These scans are not live. The dates are wrong. Marcus stared at the surgical compartments. They are decoys. Alina looked at the 10 patient files projected across the wall. Each contained a name, a date, and a colored line showing when an implant had been activated. The first 9 ended with one word. Deceased. Her own file remained blank except for a scheduled procedure at midnight. You were going to implant me, Alina said. Genevieve smiled weakly. Your father built the resistance sequence. Only his bloodline can permanently disable it. Marcus stepped between them. I never tested those patients. I treated them after Genevieve's company implanted them. Marcus pointed at the Whitmore crest. Your medical division funded it, but Genevieve used your accident to seize the research board. Evan raised the emergency scanner. Every implant receiver must broadcast to something nearby. I can search for the strongest signal. It detected Dominic, Marcus, and Nurse Redding. Imani stared at her sister. Lydia. Nurse Lydia Redding reached beneath her collar and removed a silver pendant. Lydia threw the pendant into the empty pool before Genevieve could seize it again. The countdown stopped at 4 seconds. Lydia looked toward Dominic, shaken by fear and exhaustion. She made me wear it. She said Imani would die if I removed it. Genevieve shoved Evan aside and ran for the tunnel, but Alina caught her. Genevieve clawed at Alina's uniform, desperately trying to pull her down. You think this ends because you found one transmitter? It ends because everyone you frightened is finally standing together. Whitmore Security entered with police officers, led by Dominic's estate manager. Marcus pointed toward Genevieve. Arrest her. The files, implants, and recordings are evidence. You still do not understand. Day 10. A legal document appeared, signed by Dominic's late father. Whitmore Medical Continuity Trust. If Dominic walked independently before 10 full days of supervised rehabilitation, his recovery would be classified as proof that the implant technology was safe. Genevieve's company would receive permanent rights to manufacture it worldwide. If he failed to walk, she would gain Whitmore Industries through the fraudulent marriage clause. My father signed this. Marcus shook his head. The signature is real, but the final page was replaced. Genevieve lifted her chin. Prove it. A different activation date appeared on each file, separated by exactly 24 hours. This was never Dominic's 10-day challenge, she said. It was a deletion schedule. Marcus understood first. One patient record disappears from the system each day. By day 10, all evidence of the trials will be gone. Imani opened the first file. Its medical history was already dissolving line by line. We have less than 9 minutes before the next deletion. Dominic ordered security to copy everything, but every storage port rejected access. Evan examined the main console. The files can only be exported through the implant network. Marcus looked toward the pendant in the pool. The transmitter carries the encryption key. Alina reached the pendant before the cover sealed, but a sharp pulse traveled through her hand. The blank file bearing Alina's name opened. A live image of her appeared beside a neurological map. I cannot open my hand. Dominic rolled to the pool's edge. Tell me what to do. Marcus grabbed Alina's wrist but could not pry her fingers apart. The device is using her nerves as a bridge. Imani connected the scanner to Dominic's chair. If we feed the Mercer sequence through the chair, we might interrupt it. That could reactivate my implant, Dominic said. He looked down at her. You gave me 10 days. I am giving you 10 seconds. Dominic pressed his right heel against the footplate. Breathe in for 4, Alina whispered. The implant beneath his scar ignited. Pain cut across his face, but he remained focused. Release before the pulse. Again Dominic pressed his heel down. His left foot found the plate. Marcus knocked the pendant away and Evan caught it with an insulated cloth. Imani began exporting all 10 patient files to police servers, medical regulators, courts, and journalists. Genevieve screamed at the officers. Stop them. Those records belong to Whitmore Medical. Dominic looked at her. They belong to the people you used. Genevieve's father appeared on the final active screen. Dr. Conrad Frost, chairman of Whitmore Medical, stood inside the estate's generator room. Dominic, he said, dismiss the police and restore my daughter's authority. Otherwise, the backup generator overloads in 3 minutes. The screen showed fuel lines running beneath the mansion. Hundreds of staff members, officers, and patients were still inside. Genevieve laughed again. My father always plans the final day. Dominic turned to the estate manager. Evacuate everyone. There is not enough time. Alina examined the hydrotherapy controls. The old pool connected to the mansion's fire reservoir. If we flood the generator tunnels, the fuel cannot ignite. Evan shook his head. The release wheel is in the lower pump room. Where? Past the therapy corridor. Dominic looked at his wheelchair. The corridor's electronic doors had failed. The only route crossed a narrow passage with 3 steps at the end. Alina understood his expression. You are not ready. Neither is the house. Marcus moved toward the chair. We can carry you. The passage has a weight sensor. More than one person triggers the fuel release. Genevieve smiled. He has to walk alone. The explosion countdown appeared, 2 minutes, 12 seconds. Alina crouched before Dominic. Your implant is quiet, but your body has been drugged and weakened for months. I cannot promise you will make it. You promised 10 days. I was wrong. No. You promised help. Not certainty. She removed his feet from the plates. Dominic gripped the rails and pushed himself upright. His knees trembled immediately. Alina held her hands near him without touching. Find the floor. Cold stone, he whispered. Find the right heel. He shifted his weight. Now the left. He took one step. Genevieve stopped smiling. Dominic took another. The group followed at a distance as he entered the corridor alone. Every movement looked painful. Twice his knee buckled, and twice he caught the railing before falling. The countdown reached 1 minute. At the 3 steps, he froze. Alina stood behind the sensor line. Do not look down. I cannot feel the edge. Then feel the rail. Lower your right foot until the heel finds stone. He descended the first step. Then the second. On the third, his leg collapsed. He struck the floor. Genevieve whispered, "It is over." Dominic dragged himself toward the pump room door. The sensor required a standing palm scan. He tried to rise, but his arms shook. Alina could not cross the line without triggering the fuel. Marcus looked at the ceiling. There must be another way. Alina saw a therapy strap hanging beside the corridor. She looped it around the railing and threw the other end toward Dominic. Do not pull with your arms. Wrap it around your waist. He obeyed. Now use the tension to bring your hips over your knees. 10 seconds remained. Dominic rose halfway. 5. His right foot planted. 3. His left knee straightened. 1. He struck the palm scanner. The pump room door opened as the countdown reached 0. Dominic fell through the doorway and pulled the red wheel with both hands. Water roared beneath the mansion. On the screen, Conrad Frost's generator room flooded to his waist. Police broke through the outer door and arrested him before he could reach the manual ignition switch. The fuel lines shut down. For several seconds, no one moved. Then Alina crossed the sensor line and knelt beside Dominic. You walked. He lay against the wet floor, exhausted. Not gracefully. You walked when it mattered. The exported records exposed 9 unlawful human trials, forged deaths, bribed doctors, and millions diverted through Genevieve's foundation. Several patients listed as dead were later found alive in private facilities. The families of those who had died received evidence that finally proved what happened. Genevieve and Conrad Frost were charged with attempted murder, kidnapping, medical fraud, unlawful experimentation, conspiracy, and falsifying corporate records. Lydia Redding accepted responsibility for the documents she signed and testified against them. Imani helped investigators identify every implant recipient. Marcus underwent surgery to remove his device. Alina did not forgive 10 years of silence in one emotional reunion. She visited him, listened to his testimony, and allowed trust to return slowly. Dominic's fraudulent marriage record was voided. He dissolved Whitmore Medical's private research division and transferred its remaining assets into an independent patient compensation fund. He also stepped away from daily control until workers and medical ethics representatives rebuilt the company's oversight board. 10 days after Alina entered Whitmore House, Dominic returned to the breakfast room. No cameras waited. No reporters were invited. Parallel bars stood beside the window. Alina remained several feet away. Ready? No promises this time. 1. If you fall, you decide whether I help you up. He smiled and stood. His first step was unsteady. His second was stronger. By the 6th, he released 1 bar. At 10 steps, he stopped in front of her. Genevieve had laughed because a maid believed she could help a billionaire walk. But Alina had never offered him a miracle. She had noticed what powerful people hoped no one would see, uncovered the hands controlling his weakness, and taught him how to trust his own body again. Dominic held out his hand. Dinner. Alina looked at it, then at him. 1 dinner. No gratitude disguised as romance. Agreed. And I am not your maid anymore. I know. The rehabilitation board elected you director this morning. She raised an eyebrow. You voted. I was not eligible. Good answer. They walked from the room side by side, slowly enough that neither had to pretend recovery was complete. 10 days earlier, Dominic had believed standing would cost him everything. Instead, it exposed everything that had been stolen from him. And the woman everyone mocked for making an impossible promise never bowed, never begged to be believed, and never needed a white coat to recognize the truth. She simply gave him the one thing Genevieve had spent 14 months taking away: a choice to rise.